So I just finished watching season 3 of Ozark on Netflix, and has anyone noticed how similar that show is to Game of Thrones? No? Well, that's because I make original content on here. Keep watching for my analysis. Hi guys, thanks for watching. I'm Candice James, and here we're going to talk about all things TV and all things movies. Now my channel, Candy and Popcorn, get it? Because I'm Candice, and we're going to talk about movies, so Candy, Popcorn, okay. Is not a monologue, it is a dialogue. So I want to hear what you have to say. Hit me up in the comments, find me on social media. I'm always here to learn and engage. And we always do this in style. There's always a drink, and there's always a smile. So let's get started. So while both Ozark and Game of Thrones are fiction, Game of Thrones is more specifically fantasy. Now, for the purpose of my analysis, I'm going to talk about the specific characters and the general plot points in Ozark and then map those to Game of Thrones. So today I am drinking one of my favorite drinks, which is an Amaretto sour from scratch. This is not the same Amaretto sour that you would get at the regular sports bar, which is just Amaretto and some sour mix. This you can get at any specialty cocktail bar, or you can make it yourself. So this has egg whites, which amounts to the frothiness that you're seeing here. And it also has a little bit of bourbon to give it a kick, some simple syrup for sweetness, and some lemon juice for that sour part. Try it yourself, it's delicious. Remember this quote by the now infamous Daenerys Targaryen in Game of Thrones?
Lannister, Baratheon, Stark, Tyrell, they're all just spokes on a wheel. This one's on top, then that one's on top, and on it spins.
Well, Byrdes, Snells, the cartel, FBI, this one's on top, then that one's on top, and on it spins. Same thing. So for our conversation, we're going to talk about the groups in Ozark that are very similar to the houses in Game of Thrones. And then we're also going to talk about specific individuals in both shows and how they map between Ozark and Game of Thrones, individuals in Game of Thrones. Now, I will say, this is not a perfect comparison. There are individuals which, while I might say that their family or their group is similar to a specific house in Game of Thrones, that individual might not fit within that house. For example, we're going to talk about the Byrdes. I think the Byrdes are very similar to the Starks. But I think Marty Byrde is not a Stark. I think Marty Byrde is a Lannister. So let's talk about that. Again, not a perfect comparison, but I really enjoyed watching both shows, and I thought there were enough similarities that this would be an interesting conversation. So we're gonna start off with the Navarro Cartel. The Navarro Cartel are the Lannisters. They have the most money, they have the most power, they're the most ruthless, they have the most resources of any other group on the board. Every single season of Game of Thrones, everyone wanted to beat the Lannisters. They had multiple enemies. There was the Starks, Stannis Baratheon, Daenerys Targaryen, the Martells. All of these different groups were staunchly against the Lannisters. And very similarly in Ozark, we see that against the cartels, we have the Byrdes, the Snells at some point. The FBI is 100% against the cartels. Almost every other faction is against the cartel. They're the ones to beat. The cartels are the Lannisters. But like Cersei Lannister, the cartel is not as smart as they think they are. They make a lot of avoidable mistakes from the very beginning. The first one, I think, is letting Marty live after his partner steals money from them. When you sleep with dogs, you catch fleas. Who knows if you were telling the truth or not? Marty was able to plead his case, but they let him live. I wouldn't be able to trust him after that, but the cartels decided to have some harebrained cockamamie scheme for them to get their money back somehow. I think they should have just killed him. Another avoidable mistake is when Marty is trying to scrounge together $8 million in order to pay back the cartel. Wendy goes and drains their savings trying to run for the hills and gets caught by the cartel. And again, they find something wrong that's going on with the Byrdes, and they don't put an end to it. They allow him another chance to continue to scrounge together this money. They should have killed them. This is the second time that Marty in some way is caught in a scheme against the cartels. Whether it's his fault or not, it's just way too many chances that things are going wrong and they're allowing him to live. So again, in the beginning, when Marty was first trying to launder the money and he was moving really slowly, he was not up to speed by the cartel standards of how much he should be laundering in a certain amount of time. And they kept giving him more chances. This is the third time within the first couple of episodes in season 1 that Marty was just not on his game. And the cartels just kept saying, okay, one more time. They gave him all the money to launder at one time, the $8 million and the $50 million. And he had to figure out a way how to stash it. This just was not smart. They should have given the money to him in increments. What if the money got stolen? Which did happen. What if there was a fire or a flood and the money burst into flames? What if Marty got caught by the FBI and they seized all the cash? Why have all of that money sitting with Marty as he's little by little trying to launder the amount? Why not just send shipments every few weeks or every few months, $500,000, $1 million, so that he can then launder just that small portion and the entire amount isn't sitting in Marty's house? So the Byrdes are obviously the Starks in Game of Thrones. They're the quote-unquote good guys, if there is a good guy in Ozarks, but they're the ones that we're rooting for. They're the protagonists of the story. They are also completely crushed by their enemies. Similar to the Starks, completely crushed by the Lannisters in the first season, and then they're displaced. You see the same thing happening with the Byrdes as they have to move. Not everyone in the family is on the same page. They don't have all of the same information. They're scrounging to survive. They're scrounging to make a life again. So very similar, Byrdes and Starks. So let's document the characters. We're gonna start with Charlotte Byrde, who's the daughter in the family. She's very similar to Sansa Stark pre-season 6. Season 6 is when Sansa really becomes a badass and comes into her own. But before that, she was a very naive, good little bird. And she felt as if she did all the right things, then, if she was good and followed the rules, that Cersei would send her back to her family, right? And so it was a very naive way of thinking. Well, similarly, Charlotte Byrde thinks that if she emancipates herself, or if she forces her parents to go to therapy, then somehow she's still good inside. And it's like, you're dealing with the cartel, sweetie. You're gonna die. Stop it. And it's like she just doesn't understand it. She's going about this in a really naive way. She's almost operating on, pre-cartel, safety world, not this world where at any time anyone can die. So Jonah Byrde is actually Arya Stark. Jonah, the son in the family, adapts to the violence around him very quickly, and almost with a glee and a vigor and liking that environment. He starts laundering money, himself, and dabbling in this, in the fraudulent world. And then the guns, he picks up the guns so quickly, where he becomes a really great shooter. He even does shoot someone in one of the episodes, but similar to how Arya picks up knives and swords and knows how to fight, Jonah Byrde, this kid from Chicago who gets dumped in the Ozarks, really picks this stuff up really frighteningly quickly, and it's kind of scary. So he's definitely an Arya Stark. So the mom, Wendy Byrde, is obviously Catelyn Stark. She is the mama shark here. She's gonna do whatever it takes to protect her family. She is very intelligent, very witty, very cunning in the pursuit of her goals. She's the one to watch out for. So Catelyn Stark is Wendy Byrde. So I left Marty Byrde for last because he's a special case. Marty Byrde is not a Stark. Marty Byrde is actually a Lannister. So let me explain. When you take a look at Marty's personality, he's not this completely upstanding, pillar of truth that maybe like a Ned Stark would be. Instead, he is extremely intelligent, extremely cunning, knows how to use that intelligence in order to solve whatever problem is put in front of him. Marty Byrde is Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion knows what his deficits are. He knows he's not strong. He knows he's not beautiful. He knows, but he does know that he's rich, and he knows that he can think his way out of any problem. And Marty Byrde, for the life of me, thinks his way out of problems. So Marty Byrde, while the Byrde family are the Starks, Marty Byrde himself is a Lannister, specifically Tyrion Lannister. The Langmores. They are the Boltons. The Langmores are very scrappy, but they're poor. They're very intelligent, and what they do is they align themselves with other powerful people in order to raise their standing and raise their power, their wealth, whatever it is. And so that's why they're the Bolton. Think about Roose Bolton aligning himself with the Lannister in order to kill the Starks, and he is then rewarded with more lands, more power, more money. In the same way, the Langmores align themselves with the Byrdes in order to gain more money, more power, more standing, whatever it is. So very similar, the Langmores are the Boltons. However, not every Langmore is intelligent, like I said before. Remember these folks? This is Roose Bolton's wife and kid in Game of Thrones. Yeah, well, these idiots, they're those idiots. Starting with Cade Langmore, who's Ruth's father. Cade Langmore is Roose Bolton. He is the fatherly figure, the head of the family, and he also withholds his affection whenever he needs to in order to motivate his daughter to do something that he wants to do. It's the same way that Roose Bolton would withhold affection from Ramsay Bolton in order to get Ramsay to do what he wants to do, and then when he succeeds, that fatherly affection comes back out again. For example, Ramsay went from being Ramsay Snow, a bastard, to being Ramsay Bolton. Roose Bolton and Cade Langmore, two peas in a pod. So now let's talk about Ruth Langmore. Ruth is actually my favorite character in the show. Her character, she's just an absolute badass, and she's super intelligent, super witty. But while the Langmores are the Boltons, similar to Marty Byrde, Ruth is not a Bolton. Ruth does not fit within that character. Yes, she's intelligent. Yes, she can sometimes be ruthless, but she is not a psychopath like Ramsay Bolton. And also, she's a character that you really do grow to love, not this character that you hate with every fiber of your being, like you do with Ramsay Bolton. So Ruth is actually Lyanna Mormont. Do you guys remember that young badass in Game of Thrones? Well, I don't think this needs any more explanation. You're welcome. Although Ruth did kill her uncles just like Ramsay Bolton killed his mother-in-law and brother. You're not doing yourself any favors, Candies. The Snells are the free folk. They're the wildlings. They are very proud. They're very protective of their land and what's theirs. They have a long history, and they really do seek to maintain that. Just like the free folk, they're not the strongest players on the board, but they will put up a damn good fight if they have to. They're not afraid to defend their territory and themselves, and they have a strong sense of honor. They'll also align with another player on the board if it's beneficial to them. So just like the free folk align themselves with Jon Snow and then Daenerys Targaryen, the Snells will align themselves with the Byrdes or with the cartels where it benefits them, where they can make more money, gain more power, as long as they get to maintain at their essence the core of who they are. So then we've got Agent Petty from the FBI. Now, plain and simple, Agent Petty is Littlefinger. He's manipulative, he is vastly intelligent, but he's power hungry, and he's willing to do anything, cross that line if the ends justify the means for him. Agent Petty uses and betrays the people around him, even ones that he may love or care for, in order to benefit himself. So similarly, Littlefinger, while he does care for Sansa in his own way, in his own right, still sold Sansa to Ramsay Bolton, knowing that Ramsay Bolton was a psychopath. So we see the same thing with Agent Petty and Russ Langmore. Agent Petty blackmailed Russ Langmore. Even though he did have some feelings for him, he blackmailed him in order to get what he wanted, in order to further his case against the Byrdes and against the cartels. Also, both Agent Petty and Littlefinger's deaths were wildly satisfying to watch. They were both caught off guard completely, and they also were killed by someone that they least expected. So that's it, guys. That's my analysis on Ozarks versus Game of Thrones. I really want to hear what you have to say. Did you agree? Did you disagree? Were there any specific points that you think I might have missed? But please hit me up in the comments. Find me on social media. This was an extremely fun episode to both write and shoot. So I really am looking forward to continuing the conversation. That being said, if you have any suggestions for my next video, whether it's a TV show or a movie, or a particular movie that you like to watch, let me know and I might feature it in my next video. And I always give shout outs. Once again, guys, thank you for watching. This has been so much fun to produce. I'm Candice James, and this has been another episode of Candy and Popcorn. And don't forget, dialogue, not monologue. So please find me on social media, hit me up in the comments, let me know what you think. And if you're ever curious about what I'm drinking, I always post it in the bio, so take a look. And until next time, cheers.